RPA, Robotic Process Automation. Appreciate you guys joining us. And like I said, when you talk about interagency briefings, this is it. This is what we love. We love having everybody from everywhere else coming in here and making sure everybody is and gets a chance to participate. Like I said, guys, this is one of the hottest topics that's out there. All right, best briefing ever. Teresa says, gain better understanding. A lot of folks said that for RPA, how it's used effectively. Love that. We'll get on that, right? Manish, we're going to do that?
Yes.
Yes, sir. And Robert from VHA, no time is wasted. Get straight to the point. What it is, how to use it. Next steps for those interested. We'll do that too, promise. Glory from HHS, how RPA can benefit micro purchase processing. That's a specific one, isn't it? Love that one. That's a good one, right? Christopher, everyone receives a $100,000 bonus. That is totally 100% going to happen. Only has to be approved by your supervisor, and definitely that is exactly what's going to happen here today. From Marvis, I love that, by the way, Christopher. DHS, OIG, you get a demo. We can definitely set that up, right? We can set that up with you guys, right, if we need to. But we are going to do best practices here, so we're probably not going to dive into what would be necessary for you, but you can have one. Richard from Exim, I can learn how to automate some functions or notifications required on a recurring basis. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today, right? Come on.
Yep.
That's right. John from FAA, I get some tools to make a bot. All right. Emily from USDA covers best practice evaluation techniques for procuring RPA services. I think we might even be able to touch on some of those for you, Emily. And Kimberly from FDA, it's dumbed down for someone who knows nothing about the topic. Hopefully we'll be able to bridge the gap between the folks that want all the details and the folks that want an overview. Please address from Ebony, software or devices that are used across the government to integrate HR data with other vendor sites such as travel systems. That's very specific. We may get into some of those pieces. We have something like that for HR in there, right?
We have an HR use case, yes.
All right, fantastic. So Ebony, we got you covered. Carl, what are RPA and other technologies why are RPA and other technologies so contractor dependent? That's a great question. Maybe we'll be able to answer that too. Philip, robotic technology improving the quality of employment for disabled. That is a really key factor. Love that idea. Brian from FEMA, what type of complex task and analysis can bots do to assist the analytical landscape? Great question. And that we're going to talk about too, right? Come on.
Yep.
All right. We'll get to that. Information on predictive analytics from Tanuk. Steve, how to educate and convince management of the effectiveness of this. This is a big deal. And how to determine the best ROI on its use. That is probably one of the best ones there, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And we have a way to calculate ROI.
They're calculating ROI and helping get buy-in. Love that. You can tell that. And the other reason to get buy-in is the president said so. How you like that? Essie from FAA. Should an agency complete a privacy threshold assessment or RPA? Great question. And Aaliyah from CMS, what agency support will be provided to programs to drive robotic automation? Great question. And can each program be assigned a robotic SME? That is man, we got some smart people here. Come on.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
It's going to be exciting.
And that's awesome. So we will give an opportunity for you to participate throughout this as well. You will get a copy right now of the briefing presentation, the presidential memoranda we were just talking about. You want motivation for your agency heads? There you go. And the maturity life cycle, which is a one-off part of the presentation so that you can take a look at that while we're operating, because we will ask a question about that later. If you've been living under a rock and you have no idea that you're in a Zoom, you can go up top there and you can drag that little doodah thing and make us bigger or smaller. If you have anything, we're going to be sharing the docs and also your favorite musician. That's what we started out with. If you're wondering what all the rest of that stuff was in there to get the icebreaker going, we had a whole bunch of them, Fleetwood Mac and Duran, all kind of folks. You can put that in the chat. For the rest of everything else, questions and such, raise your hand. We love the dialogue. Q&A is the best place. And here is something that you don't want everybody else to see. Manish's email will be there throughout, as well as his phone number. Don't call him yet because he's not going to answer. Are you, Manish?
I put it on airplane mode. So
there you go. It's on airplane mode. So quick disclaimer, this comes from GSA. This is not affiliated with any agency or it's provided to you for informational purposes. And so you can participate in this. It's voluntary and it's not an endorsement to a commitment to purchase from any vendor that is here, including 6E. So there you go. We got rid of that one. So the real question that we want to know, we have 153 so far that are here. Why did you decide to pop in on this? Because you're trying to understand the robotic process, and you can choose as many as you want. We're reviewing areas to use RPA. We're implementing RPA. We have a specific issue with RPA. I'm worried that RPA will take my job. That is something that we've heard, right, Kamal?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And you're going to address some of that, aren't you? Absolutely. And my boss made me come. Somebody's got to be a Weisenheimer and pick that one. Right? So the agenda today, while you're filling that out, we're going to be talking about introductions to the folks that are here, why they're here, and who they are. We're going to talk about RPA versus IA, because there's a couple of different things, but they're kind of intertwined, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And what are the industry trends? The current IA landscape within the federal government. We'll give you some examples and use cases. And what are the roadblocks? Because some of those roadblocks, we have a couple of those getting buy-in from superiors. One of those is that's one of the roadblocks, and how to mitigate those roadblocks. Love the fact that you got that in here, Kamal, and we'll get to it. So talk to while everybody's finishing filling out why they're here today. Tell us a little bit about 6E Technologies, how you guys got started.
6E Technologies has been in the ERP world for a long time. And as the ERP implementations matured, we kind of realized that we, in the last 20 years, have created so many siloed systems that don't talk to each other. So that we created a problem for ourselves by going on ERP. And that's how this whole RPA journey started, to bring efficiencies after implementing ERP. So that's what the story behind our company is. And both of us, both me and Manish, are experts on ERP, data analytics, and RPA.
And if you want to read about them, you can read about those. I'm not going to read all that stuff. They are experts in their field. And Manish, what is your role here?
Well, my role is I'm currently Vice President of Federal Relations for 6E Technologies. I'm focusing on the federal sector. And my background has been in analytics for the last 20 years. And in the last 10 years, I've made a real push to bring RPA into a lot of the clients where we're already doing analytics, just because of the workflow of the data, and also in terms of some of the analytical processes for predictive analytics, putting it together with RPA. And also, I've got relatives who are in the government. A lot of them are getting ready to retire and stuff. So there's what they call the graying of the workforce, getting some of the mundane tasks out of the way and having more high value work done by individuals who are actually in government is the reason. I want to make sure that RPA eliminates a lot of the mundane tasks and lets people have fun.
There we go.
Government, if that's possible.
If that's possible. It is possible to have fun in government. We do it all the time. Also, some people aren't as fun as others, just say. And I'll leave that up for interpretation for everybody. So what is intelligent automation, and how is it different from RPA? And can you give us some definitions of that so everybody has a framework?
So can I take this one, Dave? So RPA, as the word suggests, robotics process automation and intelligent automation, they are sort of two sides of single coin. RPA is your baseline to start making changes where you know that the task is repetitive. You can use simple rules to create a robot, which is now called a bot or a chat bot, to do certain tasks. When we talk about intelligent automation, that's when the fun starts. That's when you say, okay, this bot is going to learn from the experience and make cognitive decisions based on how you program. So think about calling United Airlines. If you were just calling United Airlines and the phone system picks up and says, Is your name Komal Goyal and is this your phone number? This is a simple RPA job. But then making a decision whether I need to go to a representative or should I stay on that particular tree is your cognitive portion of IA to tell you where that call goes. So as you make your RPA more and more intelligent to make certain decisions, that's when IA comes into picture.
I love that. So you have a great poll here, and that is, what are some of the examples of intelligence? So choose the ones that you think are examples of intelligent automation. That's what we're asking here. So self-driving vehicles sounds pretty intelligent to me. And you can pick as many as you like here, by the way. And I'm sure that you're gonna give us the overview of this in just a minute. And while this is happening, you can always ask questions and include it in that. It says, what security best practices? What are security best practices to secure your bot? Are we going to be talking about that, or you want to take this one now? One of you guys.
Manish, you want to take that one?
You're mutified.
What are security best practices to secure your bot?
Yep.
I'm going to have to think about that for a second. I use the same security best practices to secure my bot that I'm using to secure the other parts of my application, which is identity, credential, access management, cybersecurity, two-factor authentication, using audit trails. The bot to me just becomes a separate application.
There you go.
So let me just add to what Manish said. Consider your bot to be your digital worker. So if a worker comes in and runs a process, you would have the same methods of credentialing that worker as if a human was doing the same job. So as Manish said, we would use the same credentialing, same security standards for a bot that you would do for your human worker.
And the best practice in this area is the fact that, remember, bots are supposed to run independently, right? So you could have a bot run, and if something goes wrong, you'd be like, well, it's the bot's fault. But actually what we did, the best practice we used at the USDA was that whoever created that bot and was responsible for it, their name got attached to it. So if it's your creation, you're responsible for it.
All right, I like that. Very good. And we'll get to the question here. One more before we go. Are there any agencies allowing bots to run on their own, as it would be suggested by AI or IA?
So USDA is doing it in a limited form right now, and I am currently working on a project with the Department of Education where we're potentially looking at that also. But I've done it at the USDA a couple of years back.
Love it. All right, I'm going to end this poll. Got 3, 2,
specifically
1.
Within the farm production and conservation, because I know the USDA is huge.
All right. So here you go. Here's the results. So give us the lowdown on which one of these is intelligent automation.
Well, yes, I'll take this one. Roomba actually is not intelligent automation. If we were to make Roomba intelligent automation, then it should be connected with your with the high traffic area of your home. For example, the Roomba should know which room of the house to be cleaned because it's a high traffic area. It doesn't do that. You just tell Roomba to go clean this particular room. It doesn't make that decision for you. So it's not intelligent automation. It is RPA. It is RPA. It's a simple RPA. You just tell it and it does it.
It does it. Fantastic. Well, there you go. So everybody.
So let me clarify that. You could tell Roomba to clean certain rooms, all that. But let's say we were to hook it up with the thermostat, right? If the thermostat knew that you were in these 3 rooms because it raised the temperature, then it would tell the Roomba only go clean these 3 rooms because these are the only rooms they've been in the last 24 hours.
And Nambi says, that's right. Robo Rock is getting smarter though.
Correct.
I love
Roborock is getting smarter now. Roborock has, that sensor capability where if the dirt is not cleaning in a particular area, it just continues to go there. So it just continues to clean. So yes, it is getting smarter. So
Love it.
sensors are taking in. Yeah.
I see that. So it is. So we're getting progress, right? So why in the world should we even care about this, guys? Who, Manisha, you there? I can't hear you.
Let me take this.
Okay.
Why should you care? Everyone should be caring about this because we can't get away with it. We cannot not be part of RPA. Like, remember 2000s, early 2000s, late 1990s, when we said, oh, this internet thing, what is this Amazon? Why is he selling books online? Does anyone remember that?
I got one right here.
Yeah,
I bought on.
we're at the same stage with two things right now. One is this intelligence within the machines. As much as we want to say we don't believe in it, we don't want to do it, this is going to take away our jobs, it's happening. Like it or don't like it. Second, it's very similar to the W3, which is World Wide Web, the version third, which is the metaverse. So this is going to happen. Why should you care? Because it does provide savings. It takes away the mundane work that we do. It is available 24/7 by 365. Offers accuracy as long as you're creating right bots, as long as you are going through your proper requirement gathering and creating the automation in a way that it works. It does provide better accuracy than humans. It also reduces business cost, and it also ensures traceability in data, audits, everything, because you're capturing everything that you are putting out there, and your efficiency is boosted. So why should we not care when we know by 2028 we will have 2.8 million people needed in the workforce, and we don't have that. We all know that we don't have that workforce. So we need to do something.
You have to do something. And that's exactly why the president came and said, you're going to do something, right?
So, and on top of it, RPA is going to make you, get onto your M1921 directive, get started. Any agency or any organization for that, let me just not talk about government, any organization that wants to get on a digitization bandwagon, they have to take their old records and get M1921 in place, because that's where you start the RPA journey. Don't expect RPA to go ahead and pull out a paper from your drawer. That's not happening. We're not talking physical bots here. So you have to digitize that paper so that your bot can read that paper and make sense out of it, right? So digitization of your paper records will become part of this overall journey.
And you mentioned a deadline. You got a couple here, right?
Yes, 2022.
That's now.
That is yesterday, knowing how we all work, it is yesterday. So I'm sure there are so many agencies that have already started to embark on this journey, specifically M1921, but that's your starting point, Dave. You have to get started.
Yep. And so we also have making sure the records are transferable by January 1st, 2023.
Yeah,
so you can see.
Yeah.
And December 31st, New Year's Day. That's what everybody's doing New Year's Day.
Yes. And we have a lot of sources where we, if the audience is interested in talking more about how to get started, we have lots of research papers that we have put together.
Yep. And let's talk about some of the cost savings, because obviously the efficiencies of people being able to do their job as opposed to working on the system, right? Or doing the repetitive jobs. Let's get them doing things that they actually can do. So let's talk about the cost savings here. What do we got?
Exactly. So for the GSA itself has made an estimate that with just a 1% increase in productivity in the civilian agencies, not the defense agencies, you'd save $3 billion. I mean, That's literally a savings of $150 million an hour across the government.
Wow.
And as Komal mentioned, 2.4 million jobs need to be filled by 2028. And 78% of leaders are worried that they're not going to have the staff based on the number of people that are retiring. The other fact I wanted to boil in, which a lot of people don't think about it, is we have found that implementing RPA improves quality of a lot of processes. And 84% of the quality costs are caused by manual errors. This is the low-hanging fruit that we want to go after.
That is fantastic.
And taking the 150 million an hour, that's where that 41,667 per minute gets saved, which is about the money that I've just spent in the last 60 seconds.
I love that projection. So then there's some other projections. You already mentioned the 41,667. Let's talk about it.
So as you're aware, we do both federal work and commercial work. And on the commercial side, with some of our clients, we've seen an average of a 27% increase in productivity. Now, of course, if you translate that with that $3 billion we just showed, that'd be an $80 billion savings per year. It's the equivalent of handing out stimulus checks of $1,000 to every household. So think of it like the COVID check. You've got the intelligent automation check.
So somebody was asking for a $100,000 bonus that could be right there.
Exactly.
That could be it.
As long as you've got a family of 100, you're good to go. But it is the savings of $53,000 per civilian employee per year. So
wow.
That's where it comes in.
So that's a 2 years, you get your $100,000 bonus, and you only have to get it approved by your supervisor. That's all you need.
And the quality thing, I just want to point out the quality. With RPA, we were able to, at USD FSIS, reduce the overall quality by, in terms of errors, by 26%. In fact, we had a couple of deployments where we had 0 errors for large projects. Wow. And just on that one team, it was a 60-person team with a 40% development team, 20% in QA, a 2-to-1 ratio. We were able to cut down to 15 quality people, and that was an 8% FTE reduction, which if we were to project that across the federal government, that would save them $16 billion.
Wow. Crazy, crazy numbers. So if you're not doing it, you're falling behind is what this means, right?
Yes. The idea here basically is to say, look, everyone is talking about it. Even if you haven't started, there's nothing wrong with starting right now. Only about 30% of the civilian agencies have begun the journey. But if you start now, you're still with the main pack. Of course, if you wait another 2 years, you will have fallen behind.
That's a fact. And let's talk. So different agencies have different missions, and the objective is to fulfill those missions, not to be doing repetitive tasks over and over, right? That's the idea. So Take us through this.
Absolutely. So I am a firm believer of something that I call people, process, and technologies. So when I look at an agency, I always start with the process and go, okay, what are the processes that can go across an agency? And we've listed a few here, whether it's client engagement, citizen engagement, internal support, workflows, robotics, IA. Then you have to make sure that the people who are going to be using these understand how RPA and IA work and how they fall into the different departments. Whether what do the policy people look for? What do the legal people look for? What do the HR people look for? And we've got a cross section of those people in this presentation today. And then the last thing is to make sure that the technology underneath supports what they're trying to do, so that you have people, process, and technology working together. You have the processes in place, the people understand the processes, and the systems are following those processes to implement all of that stuff. And on the right side here, we've just listed a few examples of IA stuff in areas of like program eligibility, or data migration, contract closeout, document digitization. I mean, for example, program eligibility, we used it at the Department of Transportation for people who are disabled and can't ride regular transportation. They're eligible for ADA transportation or Medicaid transportation, and we built a whole eligibility program to see if they're eligible and what kinds of transportation they're eligible for, and what kind of stipends or what kind of stuff the government will provide, where they end up paying $2 and the government ends up paying the rest of it. So
And I love this because you got specific examples with different agencies. This one happens to be
Absolutely. So I'm going to
right?
give you a few examples of work
Yeah.
that we've done. Back in the late 2000s, early 2010, that area, about 10 years ago, we implemented an RPA system with the when people log into customer service and they want to have questions about their benefits, we'd use a natural language search to find the right place for them to start in the phone tree or the chat thing to try and get them to the right person. And of course, with each soldier, a former soldier, their contract is based on service, rank, deployments, and determines their pay, benefits, a lot of that stuff. We made it easier for them to go in and manage their individual contracts in terms of what they were eligible for, what they weren't. If the spouse had a question and the husband was deployed or the other spouse was deployed, they could call and find out what was going on. And the end result of it, because I don't want to go into too much detail, is by having some of that preliminary information on the call before they ever talk to someone live, they would go look up that information. So the average number of interactions with each person dropped from 3.2 to 2.6. Plus, we were able to reduce the number of days of when the process was completed from like 31 to 23. Now, that might not sound like a lot, only 8 days, but when you're using the money that's coming to pay your rent, for example, there's a big difference between being able to pay your rent on May 30th and June 5th. That 8 days suddenly is a huge difference. So that's one example.
Love it. And so that's part of, if you're looking at contract administration, somebody was asking the question about P cards and things like that. So there's ways to automate anything that's mundane, right? That's the idea.
Absolutely. And it also improves. It's the same process every time when it's done by the computer. And one of the benefits of that in any call centers, that's why you have an automated thing. When you call and the question is asked exactly the same way, you're going to get an answer exactly the same way. So
that's fantastic. You mentioned a lot of things with USDA so far. We have a bunch of folks from USDA on this.
So I spent close to 8 years working with the USDA Farm Production and Conservation, building them an enterprise data warehouse and a data analytics system. But along with that, we implemented RPA to make sure that the data got in the right place. It was validated, it was cleaned and everything. And one example that I'm going to give you that was the capstone of all of this, about 4 years ago, Hurricane Michael was scheduled to come through North Carolina. And when we looked at the track of that, we were able to go back into our database and see that Hurricane Hugo 10 years prior had followed the exact same track or close to it. Using the data from Hurricane Hugo, knowing that 85% of the peanut crop was lost in North Carolina, we ended up predicting that if they harvested their crop early before the hurricane came through, they would end up reaping about 75% of the revenue instead of all of it. So the USDA made a decision to ask all the farmers to harvest early, pay them the difference that they would have made if the crop was harvested 100%. And that way, all the crops came out at 75%, but it was better than 15% of the farmers getting 100% of the money, and then they having to pay the other 85% of the farmers 100%. Wow. And we ended up saving, I think it was close to $27 million just from that.
And that, bet you didn't expect that when you woke up this morning. Absolutely. Talking about peanut farming.
The key thing is, I told you about an analytics thing, but the RPA underneath it was the fact that we used RPA to tie in the National Geospatial Authority, FPAC, the National Weather Service, and all this was done because by implementing RPA, it made it a lot easier for, and I think one of the questions that had come up was, why are we so contractor intensive? The whole point of RPA is it's not to be contractor intensive. It's so that if I create an RPA process that is drag and drop, you can actually now move data sources over in this whole analytics process through RPA, which you do. You don't need me to do that for you. So RPA was actually helping them route data in the right place and stuff like that.
So fantastic. And Department of Transportation, we had a couple of comments about transportation
Yes.
earlier. So
with the Federal Highway Administration in their state division, every year the DOT gives a certain amount of money for every state that does inspections and the number of accidents they have. And it's based on a formula that says, okay, the top 5 states will get this percentage, the next 5 will get this. And that whole process of gathering data, analyzing it, and determining the grant formula, what each person should get, it was being done manually by about 8 to 10 people. And after we automated with RPA, we cut it down to 2 people. And the data, instead of taking days to be available, if someone came and said, well, how much money did we give Arkansas last year and what was it based on? They would have to go pull that data and figure it out from Excel sheets. Once we implemented this process, it was a simple query to look it up in the system.
fantastic. And the last one we're going to talk about is HR. A lot of questions about that earlier. Kamal,
Yes,
I think,
there was there was a question about HR. So this is a commercial use case that we put together. This company that was on the up and up. We love such customers where they are hiring and they are growing really fast. Like this company went from $1 billion company to $2.5 billion company in 5 years. So wow. That means that they were hiring really fast and they were hiring across the globe. So the big problem was they will get the applications and the applicants will send in application through the recruiters and whatnot, but their applications were not fast enough getting routed to the hiring managers. And the screening process by their 16 recruiters, I think there were 16 recruiters, was taking so long that the hiring process was taking about 3 months and they could not afford to do that. So what we did was every application, as soon as it would come, the OCR, which is called optical character recognition process, OCR would read the application, make sure that the job description and the skill set is matching. That's the first thing. That's what the screening is. As soon as that would happen, the application will be routed to not the screener anymore, to the recruiter to make sure that this application is good enough to be sent to the hiring manager. And the next level of the automation here was if the recruiter passed and approved that application, the RPA process will actually look at the calendar of the hiring manager, find the empty spot, set up a meeting, and send invite to the applicant as well as to the hiring manager. So this was all done through automation.
That's fantastic. So there's 4 examples. 3 of them are federal, and then the other, we know how challenging it is with HR in the federal space now. So many folks having issues, a lot of different issues between the new work environments, as well as the next generation dealing with employment issues. Very difficult on the hiring side, very difficult.
So right now, we are taking this program to the next level where, because there was still some quality issues in the candidates, we have created sort of a self-serve Zoom meeting with a bot for the client before it actually gets to the hiring manager, so that the hiring manager out of 60 applications say, I like this person, the way this person is talking is a good fit for our meeting, so for our team. So that additional step is going to further their cause of hiring more people. So we're still working with this client. It's one of our flagship clients.
I've never heard of that, Kamal. That is fantastic to be able to do that. So what are some of the roadblocks? I know that there's always, we identified one earlier, which is how do we get buy-in from the senior folks and be able to do ROI? What are some of these other ones that you want to talk about?
We saw concerns about, it was one of the initial ones. There was a question I saw that, yes, there is, humans use PIV card and bots don't, but bots have a credential. Bots have a number, an ID number. So that's what is used to credential them. So you need to chalk out clear measures. It's a departmental or an organizational decision how you want to do the entire security credential. But this is one of the roadblocks that people talk about and we run into.
And typically, the thing the government's using for best practice is the bot is treated as a minor. If it's your child, you're responsible for it. So if you created the bot, the buck stops with you if something happens.
Got it. And so we got a bunch of folks that are involved in training here too. I saw some of the list of the folks with their titles. So here's one for you. Who wants to take this? Is this Human Nation? Let's take this one.
Hold on. Lack of training and technology adaptation.
Yep.
Yes. One of the concerns, obviously, is, and I talked about this in the people, process, and technology. What I have found is that you need to give a lot more time for training, and also in terms of technology adoption. Technology has become a lot easier over the last few years in terms of they're making it more user-friendly. There's less coding, low coding, no coding. But training is a key part of it. And I have found the easiest way in training is to take an existing problem, whether it be a small problem, and run it through. Instead of using a generic thing, I always like to take something from my client that they have an issue and actually work through that problem in training so that people are doing something real with it. So that's one of the benefits that I found. Initial training is to use an actual thing or issue that they're currently having.
I love that. So what about the lack of consensus?
I'll take this one. This becomes a big problem because when you start with looking at an organization holistically, finding that particular area where you want to start automation with, automation from, becomes a sticky point because everybody wants to do that. But that's the biggest mistake that can happen when you're getting on this journey. You really, really cannot boil the ocean because there is so much that can be done. Mm-hmm. Finding smaller processes, finding smaller tasks and see quick win. That's where you will also be able to create a business case for your leadership, where you say, look, I am able to give you 5,000 hours back using machines. Those are the wins you want for your leadership, but please don't try to boil the ocean because it's going to be so overwhelming that you will actually stop the project.
Yep. It'll kill it.
It's quick successes, right? And I'll give you an example. At FPAC, I had 80 people. There were a few DBAs, ETL people, all that. And I saw that I had 18 people that were ETL people out of 80. Well, if I can automate an ETL task, that's going to benefit 18 FTEs as opposed to my DBAs, which I only had 6 of. So we started over there.
And that leads us to the next one, which is concerns about displacement. So what about my job kind of thing? Right now, it's a little bit different because there's super crazy trying to find to hire people, as you mentioned earlier, Kamal. So how do you deal with this one?
So here is how I look at RPA. There are concerns, and the concerns, I don't want to undermine these concerns. What I want to say is, when you start planning RPA across the organization or a department, start with the areas where the tasks are repeated. Think about a process, like just Manish said, ETL process. That is repeated task. Every day you do the same thing over and over again. What we are saying is humans can make decisions, intelligent decisions, more so than the machine. Let them do the high value work where the value is higher, and we are not making them do the mundane work. Another area where we are seeing help, where RPA can help, is in the area where there is there is retirement coming up. Find out what are those repeated tasks people are doing so that you can actually start planning ahead of time before the retirement actually hits.
That's a winner. That's a winner right there. And how about the budget? We always hear about budget, right?
Manish, you want to take this one?
Yes, of course, RPA is fairly, even though it's been around a while, it's fairly new and there are not specific RPA projects out there yet. What I have managed to do when talking to contracting offices and other thing is kind of group it with other tasks like analytics or business process reengineering. They're all a form of RPA. When you look at business process reengineering, you're reengineering processes, but at the same time you're reengineering them, take the next step and automate them at the same time.
Love it. And using the ROI, and that's how you get the buy-in from above as well, is saying, hey, the budgeting piece kind of takes care of itself. And that's the whole concept in reducing the increasing the efficiency, right? Because that's the whole idea, is that there's bots don't make the mistakes that human makes, just being straight with everybody and then being able to gain those.
Yeah. And I just saw a quick thing on the chat that said, that we need to show the ROI and all that. And I said, look, we'll partner with you in showing you the ROI so that when you go to your higher ups, you can show them the benefit, right? There's nothing wrong with reaching out to us and saying, hey, how can we show the ROI in this? I may not be able to show it in your exact organization, but if I can give them a reference at a different agency that have done that, and your higher up can call that higher up over there, that's the best validation.
Darn right. That's the best. All right. And so here's the question. Where are you? And everybody's got this as far as as the handout. So I'm for the folks, like said, dumb it down earlier, right? That wasn't me. That was somebody else who said it. But the idea is, okay, where are you in the process? Haven't started yet? Have you identified your tasks? Have you created your task force with the formal implementation plan? And the next part, are your stakeholders engaged? And then finally, is it agency wide? Have you done it? So, and we love this dialogue too, right? Right, guys. We want to have this dialogue with you. And guess what? We have a ton of folks that are asking questions. And I'm going to open this up real quick. I'm going to go to the Q&A first. So if you ask something in the chat, it may get lost. So if you put something in there, go grab that for me and pop that in the Q&A so I can find it. And let's see. Let's go to the top of this real quick. I work with federal procurement. I'm interested in IA tools focused on building solicitation contract documents. Great repetitive task, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Example: pulling appropriate clauses, provisions from the FAR and agents supplement. Exactly the right things, Michael. That's exactly what you want to do. And if you're interested in that, make sure you reach out to Manish and start talking about directly. Unless you got something to throw in on that, that's a perfect example.
Well, I mean, in terms of just the technology, there's a few that we use. I mean, Kofax, UiPath, the numbers come right to mind. If you already have a technology in place, of course, we'll work with that. One of the benefits of our organization is we're technology agnostic with RPAs. The way I look at it, whether it's analytics or RPA or anything, I look at it as our job is to write Shakespeare. What language you guys use is the easy part.
Love that. Fantastic. Maria's got a Weisenheimer remark. Where would litter robot, self-cleaning litter box for cats waste fall? RPA or IA?
No, I don't have.
It falls under get a dog.
I was about to say that. I'm a dog person, not a cat person.
Oh, man. So Tariq is saying, so a process of programming certain repetitive functions that I may perform which require no interactions. If so, what happens if the bot programming calendar is an issue due to a change in the process it was programmed to initially do? Great question, Tariq. That's a great question.
Absolutely. And this is where you'd have to go in and reconfigure the process. And it's become a lot easier. It doesn't require coding anymore. A lot of it is drag and drop, adding a different element in there, adding new business rules. Usually stuff that would take you a half a day to do can now be done in 5 minutes.
Love that. And then you always have the ones that fall out. They're the outliers. And that's where you have forwarding that on to a superior, forward that on to somebody that's going to handle that problem, right?
Absolutely. The idea we want to get to the 20/80 rule. 80% of your RPA needs should be handled by you. And the 20% that you can't is the one you bring us in for. We become like your tier 3 support, and we teach you to be your tier 1 and tier 2 support yourselves.
Love it. And Emma's saying, I work in a lab. There was talk about electronic lab notebooks at least 5 years ago. It's still not happening. What's happening? That's a great question, Emma. I don't know the answer to that.
I am also waiting for it too. I do want to get into it. No, my background is in biochemical engineering. I came from like working in genetics and stuff. So I'm familiar with working with lab software and stuff like that to automate processes, especially when you're doing assays and analytical processes. In fact, I think one of the key things that we could benefit from, and I don't know if anyone's doing this, is automating the COVID assay process for COVID diagnostic, right? That could be a very good RPA process to try and tackle.
And Jason's asking, how are agencies avoiding error magnification and what are the maintenance costs and risks?
That is where the intelligent automation comes in. You've got to have that checkpoint so that the errors don't cascade on each other and keep getting worse. You've got to put validation things in there and thresholds. I use thresholds all the time on my analytics side, where if the database capacity is falling down, it automatically adds it and all that. We put in thresholds with the bots too. If the bots start spitting out numbers or values that are not consistent with the range, then it's going to alert me to it that I've got to take a look at this bot.
Got it. Do any agencies, this is from David, do any agencies conduct a security assessment on RPA or just rely on the fact that the systems communicating have the authority to operate? Great question. Are they identified in each SSP as interfaces, and are there rules of behavior, citizen developers, question mark? Is there a development governance process, and are there flags in that process that may require assessment? That's a loaded question. That's good.
Yes, but we are right in the middle of that. It is just like data governance. People build a database first and said, oh, now we need quality data. We need to secure the data. The same with RPA. RPA is now starting to get to the point where people are like, well, I need to look at the security of this, or I need to know what happens if this happens. What are the ramifications of this? Who's responsible for it, right? Anything that's automated, including like Tesla. When you automate the car, if it runs into an accident, who's responsible? Is it the driver behind the wheel or is it Tesla? All these questions have to get answered. And frankly, this one question, I don't have the answer for yet. I can have a suggestion, but ultimately it'll be determined by policy. Whatever the government sets as policy.
I could not agree more. Carl's just making a point. We heard the same refrain about repetitive manufacturing tasks, and then we shipped all our stuff to China and Mexico, and for jobs Americans didn't want, and it hollowed out of domestic manufacturing. That's true. The difference here revolves around having tasks that only humans can make decisions to do. Would that be right?
So yes, but
or at least run that. You're never going to make it 100% anyway, no matter what.
What you're doing here is actually, you meant that you're not bringing jobs back, but you're bringing, so for example, back office functions were done in India a lot. They're still done there. If you start automating those processes, they're not coming back here as jobs, but they are coming back as automated processes that you don't have to worry about over there, right? And if you have someone doing something that you don't need to send overseas anymore, it reduces your security profile. I mean, it increases your security because you don't have someone else touching it from outside of the country.
Got it.
But I would like to jump in here for a second, Dave. Yes, there is, again, as I said, concern about job replacement, but let's not forget, we still are not able to fill the jobs. We have deficit right now, deficit of 1.6 million people, which is going to increase to 2.4 million by 2028. So let's just open ourselves up about this dialogue and see where, like, you do not want to be checking the log of your database on a daily basis. That's not a fun job to do. Let the machine do it, because machine can.
So last one for the moment, and then we'll get to some more. With scanned documents, will OCR still work? Great question.
Yes, OCR is now able to actually take apart a scanned document. It can totally read that, and we can actually do the demo about that.
Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to share this poll. So this is where they are, ladies and gentlemen. And so everybody knows you're not alone. Everybody's in this together, right? So a lot of folks haven't started, and some of them, as you can see, they're in various phases, but most haven't started. So we appreciate that. And let's talk about the initial adoptions of this. So what are the steps that we have to take? Love this graphic, by the way. It's not your typical one.
Yeah, this one, again, as I said, planning is a big part of it. Plan a full department if you are putting SMEs at department level. If you're putting SMEs at the agency level, it's all about planning. Plan ahead of time. Don't start the entire project at the same time. Don't go big bang. That is one important thing. Plan the entire thing and then start small pieces and start train your stakeholders, train your people. As Manish was saying, training early, training often is very, very important. Your core team should be responsible. Who's doing which bot, who is actually re-engineering the process. Because while you're doing this, remember, you also have to re-engineer your processes. Some processes are being run for the past 20 years and they need to be looked at now. And this is a great time to do that. So have your core team do that and then test, roll out, and create a backup plan. Somebody asked, I was looking at the question, what if a bot is retiring or bot is leaving, and we have to treat it almost like an exit. But we actually have not, Manish, have we ever come across a situation where a bot is retiring? No, right? Not yet.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
That's the whole point of bots. They never retire. They never ask for healthcare or time off.
That's right. So I love this. So this gets to the Automation Center of Excellence. The whole idea is creating this environment for the agencies to become the center of their own excellence. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you mentioned, and we're not going to read these whole things, but organization, governments, operations, processes, and technology all rolled in. Love that. So if you get a chance to review this on your own, take a look at it, see where you are. Excellent, excellent layout of how things need to work. And if we would have, first of all, we're a little over the 40 minutes
Dave,
right now.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
The Q&A that's in there, because some of these are a little more detailed.
Yep.
Do you capture all the Q&A? Because I'd like to go back and answer each of them for these guys over the next 2-3 days and send it out. That'd
be great. Yeah, because we can't answer them all right now, but we will get to some of those. And that's great. Appreciate it, Manish. And we could have saved $1.7 million in the last 40 minutes or so?
Yep. If we had RPA.
If we had RPA. There you go. And apparently we can do this via RPA Zoom if we want to.
Yes.
So as we said before, there's no obligation to purchase from anybody. But if you would like to talk to 60 Technologies, all the information is right here. It's included in your handouts. Love the fact that you guys work with partners that are 8A partners and service disabled, but you are Hub Zone too, right? Is that right, Kamal?
Yes.
Correct.
Yep. And woman owned. So there you go. You can get in touch with them there. So what's next? Here's what's next. We will continue the conversation. And the question is, how do you want to continue the conversation with you? You like to discuss how you can use RPA. Would like help meeting the presidential memorandum. You have a specific RPA need, or you have something else to discuss, please contact me. Pick one of those and let us know. Only pick one of those if you want somebody to talk with you. There's some folks that said, hey, don't call me. That's fine. We won't call. and let us know, let them know when you want it, because it's really important as far as that goes. So let's get back to the question.
One thing about the audience, which is great, that all these great questions that you've given us, not only will I answer these, but in our future presentations that we're going to do, we're going to actually tailor the presentation a little bit more based on the responses I've gotten today, because there are some topics that for our next set of, talk about a teaser, for our next set of RPA presentations that we can add into it.
That's right, because this isn't going to go away. And like, come on, you had a great thing. It's not just about creating the bot for right now. Every that bot needs to be continually maintained, right?
Correct.
So that it becomes,
and with the technology today, one of the questions was, why is it so contractor dependent? RPA is actually not contractor dependent. It is very low code, almost no code, drag and drop processes where the agencies should be able to maintain it by themselves and keep the 80-20 rule. We are your third, fourth tier.
Love it. So Jonathan's asking, how many people are necessary to support RPA? Love that question. Not sure that you can figure that out right out.
Obviously, it's the classic question of, it depends. Now, how large the agency is, what kind of work you want to get done, what's the time frame. So I can say, instead of people, there are a number of roles, right? You have the business lead, you have the technical lead from the technology point of view, the business lead's looking at the process. Getting a SME in that area is, of course, from our side, or working with one from your side who can be like your champion or your train the trainer person who can help you and who has an overview of the process, right? Someone who can look at the entire process and understand all the steps in it, and not just the 3 or 4 steps that they do in the process. That role is very important to the process. And obviously the security role, which is now also a part of it. So
Fantastic.
Getting your ISO involved in it.
Yeah, we have 1 minute, and there is a last question that I see on the screen here is, would RPA and IA be appropriate for billing from bill development to verifying payment received? Yes, yes, and yes. Because we can use OCR. The technology is ready to do that.
Awesome. And that will take us here. We promise. So Manish, you're gonna take all these, any of these questions you're asking, and we'll take a look at the chat as well, because there's some that are embedded in there. There was a funny one that I saw earlier that from Danny said, asking about the question earlier. My boss is here, so I didn't select the option that my boss made me come.
Yeah, no,
so
I saw that.
Not that Danny is going to get called out or anything.
Yes.
So we do very much appreciate you all joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us and all the feedback. And like Kamal said and Manish said, we're going to assemble this information, incorporate it, so we actually get smarter about being able to deliver what you need from us. It's like RPA, only manualized. How about that?
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us a chance to talk about one of the topics we love.
Oh, it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much. And we will see you next time. And you will get a recap email from us, as well as the presentation that's recorded and the opportunity to be able to chat with Manish and Kamal and anybody else on your team that would be beneficial for them. Right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we're going to give you another couple of seconds to answer that. Is there anything else we want to pop in? Can we ask questions outside the webinar? Yes, you can. Our RPI is discussed here, done with specific software. You want to talk about that one real quick?
No, it's not specific software. As Manish said, we are platform agnostic. We come in to see your processes, put efficiencies using bots and the RPA technology. It doesn't matter which RPA specific software you have already bought or you're ready to buy.
And there's some specifics about procurement. So we will get that. Renata, Alexis, make sure we get to you. And Seneca, thanks so much. That's great. We're glad that has been good for you. And I'm sure there's some stuff in the chat with folks leaving. You're welcome, Judy. You're welcome, Terry. Alexis, awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks, Danny. Thanks for being a good sport for me calling you out. All right, ladies and
Thank
gentlemen,
you.
thanks so much, guys. Great information, and looking forward to the next one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.